So we are about to take council together on matters concerning this county. We should seek to faithfully discharge our duties of office, both our debate, in our decisions, promote the health, safety and well-being of those we serve. Thank you. Fellow councillors, officers and members of the public, welcome to our council meeting this balmy summer evening. It's balmy with an R rather than an L. It's going to be a balmy summer this year, I think. I'm going to start, first of all, by paying tribute to a member of staff, Yasmin Abdul-Rahim, who passed away at the end of July. Yasmin joined the authority with the early help team, bringing her enthusiasm, passion and experiences into our service, helping further contribute to the lives of families in Rutland. She shared a strong relationship with all her colleagues and was never shy of asking really challenging questions. Yasmin had life-limited disabilities. Alright, if this carries on, I will suspend the meeting. Who is that? Can they be removed, please? Are they outside the building? Yes. The meeting is therefore suspended until 5:00 away. I will now carry on. Yasmin had life-limiting disabilities, presenting challenges for which many people can lead to isolation from society. This was not the case for Yasmin. She wanted to use her experiences to improve the lives of those around her, and as such, she dedicated her life to leading and inspiring change for children and young people. Our thoughts are with her family and friends. Those who are able, please now join me in a minute of silence. So a reminder, this is a meeting open to the public, but it's not a public meeting, and any disruption from the public gallery will not be tolerated. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, therefore in the event of a fire alarm, please leave the chamber by the nearest exit and assemble at the rear of the council car park. As always, members, please stand and ensure your microphone is switched on. When you're speaking, speak clearly into it and switch the microphone off. When you finish speaking, when voting, please ensure your hand is fully raised and wait until voting is confirmed before lowering it. Members may only speak once on an item unless it is for a point of order, point of information or point of personal explanation. And I also remind members not to use their mobile phones during the meeting, and I'd also ask members of the public please to turn theirs onto silent, unless of course they need to step away from the urgent matter. And due to the heat this evening, if anyone wishes to access water, there is water available in the kitchen, which is in this area over here. And if needed, we will take breaks. Okay, on to the agenda. Item 1 is apologies. Do we have any apologies this evening?
Thank you, Chair. We have received apologies from Councillors Wise, Ross, Smith, L. Chatfield, N. Chatfield, Arcane, Powell, Corby, Harvey, Beggy, West, and Carr. Therefore, Councillors voted to 15 this evening.
Speak up, please. You can't hear at the back.
Can members please speak into the microphones as close as possible so everyone can hear what's going on. Item 2 is Chairman's announcements. I'll provide a set of announcements at the next ordinary meeting of Council. Item 3, announcements from the leader, members of the Cabinet or head of paid service. I have advised the Deputy Leader has no announcements for this meeting. Declarations of interest, in accordance with the regulations. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? Okay, so I have one. I need to declare that I was Her Majesty's High Sheriff of Rutland in 2015-16. I've spoken to the monitoring officer and she assures me this is not a conflict and does not preclude me from voting on the motion or item. Item 5 is petitions, deputations and questions from members of the public. We've got 2 deputations received from members of the public. First, we have a deputation from Adrian McGarkey. So, Mr. McGarkey, if you could come forward, please. You've got 5 minutes for your deputation. I'll give you a 30-second warning from the end. And when the 5 minutes is up, I will expect you to stop. So, when you're ready, Mr. McGarkey.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I first came to this area in the mid to late 1980s when my mum and dad sat my brother, my sister and I down to announce that Dad had a new job. They were moving. I had to go with them, but my siblings had housing and careers, so I was left behind, being dragged from the only home I knew in my formative years to a place I had never even heard of. It was Stanford. I fell in love very quickly with this new home. The move worked. I found work. Our house was bigger than the one we had left. And I eventually found romance too. I met my now late wife Sue, and through circumstance and fortune, we moved to Stephenson and Rutland, where we lived for 20 years before relocating to Uppingham, and just before she became very ill. We found more than just a home, it was our sanctuary. Coming back to Rutland after being away for any time is like recharging your batteries. Because it is small, because it is a unique county, and I'm sure many communities around the country will say the same about their homes. But this is different. We do know each other in Rutland. You can be born and delivered to Rutland by your friends and neighbours. You go to school with them. You will find work with them. Relationships will blossom. We socialise together. We grow older together. And then, as age takes its toll, we are cared for by our Rutland friends and neighbours. And yes, when we shuffle from this mortal coil, we are buried and celebrated by our friends and neighbours with love, decency and honour. You may argue that none of this will change with local government reform. It will still be Rutland with its rich, proud heritage and legacy, the history, our proud association as a ceremonial county where even monarchs have to offer up and upside down, we would say the right way up, horseshoe, to Oakham Castle just to pass through this place. What I fear is a sense of identity. I feel for Rutland shall be diminished, and I am not assured that our ceremonial status is protected either by promises only. A word being a bond is not the same as it being legislated for. Some may call this a fight. To continue that analogy, if this was a boxing match, please assure me that we have not thrown in the towel and taken a dive before the second bell. I want to know that there will be a challenge to this LGR reform that secures the best outcome for Rutland and that our voice is not lost in the wind. For once I shall not use my indoor voice. I hope that the outside world hears this plea. Like everything else, I want to be led proudly by my friends and neighbours too. Many of you are sitting before us in these chambers. Please do not let Rutland down.
Thank you, Mr. McGarkey. If you will stand here. Thank you. Members, questions for Mr. McGarkey? In that case, thank you, Mr. McGarkey. We return to your seat. Second deputation is from Miles Williamson Noble. Mr. Williamson Noble, if you could come forward, please. Same rules apply. You've got 5 minutes to present your deputation. I'll give you a 30-second warning from the end. When that 5 minutes is up, I will expect you to stop. So, we're ready.
I am presenting this deputation to the Chair of Council on the subject of Rutland's ceremonial status, having first lived in the county 75 years ago and having been a full-time resident since 1995. I was High Sheriff of the county in 2014, the year before Councillor Brown, and was a county councillor for some years. I speak on my own behalf and on behalf of the 7,000 residents who signed Alicia Kearns' petition. Rutland has had a High Sheriff since 1129 and a Lord Lieutenant since the rather more recent date of 1559. The only break in this was between 1974 and 1997, during which time Rutland was absorbed into Leicestershire and the Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff were designated as being for both Leicestershire and Rutland. Neither the Lieutenancy Act 1997 nor the Sheriff's Act 1887 specifically mention Rutland, and both link ceremonial status to local government administrative status. The reason that Rutland is not included by name in the Lieutenancy Act 1997 is that the Act was drafted before Rutland regained its separate administrative status as a unitary council. However, the Leicestershire, City of Leicester and District of Rutland Structural Change Order 1996 stated that with effect from 1 April 1997, Rutland would become a unitary authority and would become a county for lieutenancy purposes. While we believe that there is no intention of amending the Lieutenancy Act in 2028, the Structural Change Order will clearly have to be amended. The Lord Lieutenant and the High Sheriff do much for the county. They support the military and the forces of law and order. They give encouragement and recognition to schools, youth groups and charities. They fight to get proper allocation of effort from those organisations, such as the police and fire service, that serve all of Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. And they represent the county to visiting royalty and at our local universities. While there is no reason why office holders representing both Leicestershire and Rutland should not carry out similar duties, there can be no doubt that the amount of time devoted to Rutland would be drastically reduced. The Office of High Sheriff receives no financial or administrative support from the county, and that of Lord Lieutenant receives only minimal support. There is therefore no resourcing requirement to abolish either office. Rutland was registered in the Domesday Book of 1086, subsequently changing its name to Rutlandshire and more recently Rutland. For nearly 1,000 years it has been a recognisable entity. There seems to be no reason why the new local government reorganisation would need to change the name, and it is strongly recommended that this proud historical county should be able to continue to call itself Rutland. We know that the Rutland and Stanford MP and Rutland County Council officers have been talking to central government about the strongly held wish of Rutlanders to maintain the county's ceremonial status. We understand that vague assurances have been made by ministers and senior civil servants, but that nothing has been put in writing and no moves have been made towards any supporting legislation. Council is requested to put formally to central government the wishes of its residents to remain a ceremonial council with the name of Rutland, with a Lord Lieutenant and a High Sheriff. It is further suggested that in order to avoid the need for primary legislation, the government should be encouraged to include this in the statutory instrument that will be required to amend the Leicester, City of Leicester and District of Rutland Structural Change Order 1996.
Thank you, Mr. Willington Noble. Members, questions for Mr. Willington Noble? In that case, thank you, Mr. Willington Noble. Please return to your seat. Item 6, questions from members of the council. No questions have been received this evening. Item 7, notices of motion. We have one notice of motion for which this meeting has been called. Councillor Stephenson, would you like to introduce the motion?
Oh, Chair, I thought we were going to read out an alteration which I was happy to accept, but I will hand over to you then.
Oh, okay. So the alteration is on item 2 of the motion is the Leader of the Council writes to the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government requesting in 2.1 a full and detailed explanation as to why Leicester City Council, why Leicester City's proposal was preferred to either of the other two proposals, given it did not contain evidence of its impact on the rest of Leicestershire and Rutland, and did not address all the requirements requested of local authorities in Annex A, to the letter of the 5th of February 2025 from the Minister of State for Local Government and English Leaving, inviting all the local authorities within Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland to jointly develop local government organisation plans. And item 2.2, how the proposal for an expanded Leicester City and the second council of the remainder of Leicestershire and Rutland represents the best configuration to deliver the government's stated ambitions for efficiency, financial sustainability, effective local services and local democratic accountability. And 2.3, that in light of the Prime Minister's recent statement that he is prepared to, in inverted commas, look again at the boundary changes within Leicestershire, the Leader of the Council continues to work with the leaders of the other councils in Leicestershire to determine a joint way forward which will best serve the interests of Rutland residents. So I need to put it to you, Councillor Stephenson. Are you happy with that alteration?
I'm happy with that alteration, Chair.
And seconder, Councillor Dinsmore, are you happy with that as well?
I'm happy, thank you.
Okay, so that is part 2 of the recommendation. Would you like to now propose the original motion with that alteration, Councillor Stevens?
Thank you. I'll read the recommendation one out at the end, Chair. Good evening, members, residents. The recent government announcement regarding local government reorganisation in our area will see the abolition of Rutland County Council and with it our status as a unitary authority and a county council. Given the consequences, it is both reasonable and our duty to ask the government to protect what is uniquely Rutland and to show us the evidence upon which the decision was based. And I'd like to thank Councillors Johnson and Brown for the suggested alteration which I've just accepted to that second recommendation. Our first recommendation, however, asks the leader to petition the government to ensure both our ceremonial status and our legal right to call ourselves the County of Rutland are protected. I know some people believe this recommendation to be unnecessary. That Rutland will require special legislation to protect these two things is agreed. This need is referenced in our own Cabinet papers, by ministerial confirmation in the House of Lords, and with meetings between our MP and the relevant minister. I believe we all acknowledge the importance of our heritage and history, and that we retain our own Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff. The importance of our county status to our visitor economy is clearly evidenced. 1.49 million visitors in 2024, bringing £174.88 million to our economy, whilst providing approximately 1,500 jobs. This is not to mention the number of our businesses which use the USP of Rutland, England's smallest county. Our residents have told us loudly and clearly it is an imperative to protect our ceremonial status, 7,141 signatures on the parliamentary petition. We have talked about protecting Rutland's status, we have written it, but this council has never formally resolved that it must be protected. Tonight, we can. This is our opportunity to go on record, unequivocally, standing up for Rutland. Assurances have been given to our previous leader. Assurance is not the same as legal certainty. A ministerial assurance is not the same as a legally binding provision. Prime ministers change, ministers change. Until those provisions have been made, there is no legal certainty Rutland is protected. Put yourself for a moment in the position of a civil servant in Whitehall. On a Whitehall map, we may be little more than a grid reference. Our public position since the announcement is that we respect the government's decision. If the necessary legislative requirements look as though they could be put on the too difficult pile, Rutland has assumed a position of compliance from the outset of this process. If you think the too difficult pile is speculation, you're right, it is. But let me put that speculation in context. Work on redesigning our waste services began in 2021. The mandated food waste collection started in March this year. Change to one service took 5 years. Under government proposals, the elections for shadow councils will happen in May 2027. The new unitary authorities will be vested on the 1st of April 2028. I do not need to spell out just how much work needs to happen to deliver on time. Let us not leave any ambiguity. Our job tonight is to make it too difficult for government not to address our request. That comes from a robust, explicit resolution that our ceremonial and county status must be protected in hard and fast legislation. Aside from our ceremonial and county status, the government's own public consultation has highlighted the deep unpopularity of its decision. Only 7% of respondents supported the option chosen by government. We are not asking the government to agree. We are asking government to show why it disagreed. We have a duty to our residents to understand how the decisions will deliver against the government's stated ambitions for efficiency, financial sustainability, effective local services and local democratic accountability. These recommendations do not ask members to reopen every argument about local government reorganisation. They ask for two simple things: certainty about Rutland's future and the evidence upon which the government based its decision. I hope every member of this council can unite behind these two simple asks. I move the recommendations and I look for a seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Stephenson. Seconder.
I'd like to second and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, Councillor Dinsmore, you need to stand when you're speaking. Okay, so we have a proposer and a seconder. So we now open up Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move an amendment to number 1.
Okay.
How would you like me to explain it?
Well, do you want to read out your amendment first?
We would like to modify item number 1 to read as follows. Council resolves that the leader of the council requests our member of parliament to make every effort to use all available parliamentary processes to ensure that the necessary legislative provisions are made to preserve Rutland's ceremonial county status. The offices of the Lord Lieutenant of Rutland and the High Sheriff of Rutland, and the continued legal recognition and use of the name County of Rutland. In addition, we urge the Member of Parliament to request a clear timetable for these measures to be published and provided to herself and Rutland County Council at the earliest opportunity. End of amendment.
Okay, do you have a seconder?
Yes, I wish to second that, Chair.
Likewise, Councillor Brown.
Do you wish me to speak to that amendment at this stage?
Or would you like to reserve the right?
I reserve the right.
Okay, right, we've now got a proposer and a seconder, so we now are going to debate. Sorry, I don't put it to you, Councillor Stephenson. Don't go first. Councillor Stephenson, are you happy to accept that amendment?
No.
Okay, good, then in that case I don't think I need to ask Councillor Dinsmore because we need to both agree. In that case we're now debating the amendment, so open to debate members. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. The reason for this amendment is that the originally proposed amendment, although it resolves the leader of the council, makes all the efforts, the way that we can achieve what I think we all want for the County of Rutland, which is to preserve its ceremonial status and to preserve as much of its heritage as possible, is through parliamentary processes. So we fear that a letter from the leader of the council will just fall on deaf ears. Whereas if a member of Parliament, our member of Parliament, can progress the matter with the relevant ministers and speak in Parliament, then that is the right way to do it and will achieve the result that we all want. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I understand the reason for this motion and the need for it. But I think it is very clear that the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government have over the last 18 months given very clear confirmation that they not only have no objection to Rutland's ceremonial arrangements being preserved, but they will also support similar moves to preserve all such ceremonial arrangements throughout the whole country where it is requested. Those numerous correspondences with this council ended with the most recent letter of the 20th of September, which I understand was made available to Councillor Stephenson and is now available on the council's website under the title Future LLR. Those correspondence not only confirm what I've just said, they went further, going into the extent of naming the statutes and parliamentary procedures whereby this process could be achieved. Namely, the Local Government and Public Involvement in Health Act 2007, which facilitates the local government structural changes supplemental provision agreements order of 2023, which they indicate are the appropriate pathways for this resolution. I also note the referral to instances where doubt has previously been expressed as to the effectiveness in particular circumstances that applied to Cumbria, and that this was a potential problem that was resolved by the provisions of a specially tailored statutory instrument, the Cumbria Structural Changes Order of 2009. And the government has confirmed that a similar mechanism could well be used to ensure Rutland ceremonials if it was shown that neither of the conventional routes were not available. I don't like giving this government any credence, but I don't think they could. Should the leader, as requested by this motion, write a further letter asking the same information, I would hesitate to guess that the response from the official at the ministry dealing with this would be, what is the logic of sending this letter? We have already repeatedly confirmed our intentions to put in writing. What parts of the English language do they not understand? I would also suggest that it would reasonably conclude that such a letter would not be taken seriously. In my opinion, the board is therefore firmly in our MP's court. This administration has successfully obtained the written confirmation that enables her to hold our government to account. In this matter, she represents all our parliamentary matters. It is for her to ensure that government keeps to its word. She alone has the voice to raise this matter in Parliament on our behalf.
It is she who has access to the powers and procedures afforded to parliamentarians to ensure compliance with these confirmations of actions, given assurances which have been given to it by the government. This council has no such powers, and that is why I support this amendment, as it addresses the only aspect of the process that is outstanding and not yet provided, namely the timetable for taking those necessary and appropriate steps. And to be honest, I can't see how they can provide that timetable until the timetable for the bill itself, providing for LGR, is settled, done, and passed. At that point, she could proceed. It is also expresses this administration's support to her in her taking all the necessary steps to achieve this common goal. I beg to say.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Now open to debate. Yeah, we're now open to members to debate the amendments. Councillor Warwick.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As my name, if not my name, has been taken in vain tonight, I feel it's necessary to speak to this amendment. But before I do, I would like to thank Councillors Stephenson and Dinsmore for accepting our suggestion.
Speak up, can't hear you.
Please. Before I speak to this, I would like to thank Councillors Stephenson and Dinsmore for accepting the suggested amendments to point 2 of their original. I appreciate that enormously. The ministers involved between them when I was leader on 3 separate occasions assured me that our ceremonial status would be retained, as did one of the senior civil servants in the ministry. Now, you may wish to call me naive, but I did tend to believe people, especially as on 2 of the 3 occasions the ministers spoke to me, I had not gone to ask them. We were at events and they came and found me out to reassure me that our ceremonial status was remaining. What they haven't done is give assurances that the necessary legislative elements will be enshrined in the structural changes order, or at least if they have, I have not seen a copy of that document. And if it isn't in the structural changes order, there isn't anything we can do about it. There is an awful lot our MPs can do about it, because it's a part of the parliamentary process. And that's the purpose behind this amendment. It's not trying to block what's going on, it's trying to make it more effective. Because I think we all speak with one voice when we say that it is essential that we retain our ceremonial status, as Councillor Stephenson so eloquently explained when she spoke. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warwick. Just as a reminder to members, members can speak once on the amendment and once on the substantive as well. So, yes, Councillor Stephenson.
Thank you very much. Just to be clear, recommendation 1 speaks to ceremonial status. It also speaks to being called the County of Rutland, which I have indicated is essential for our businesses. Right, I'm going to start by listing the things that our MP...
Point of information.
Yes, Councillor Johnson, point of information.
Point of information. The amendment that I proposed also said that we continue to use the name County of Rutland. I would like to make that absolutely clear.
Taken as read, but I'm merely pointing out that the assurances from the ministers are around ceremonial status. They haven't explicitly mentioned county status, but I do take your point of information. Right, I will continue. Here is a list of the things our MP has already done. 15th of January 2025, tabled a written parliamentary question asking what assessment government had made of the effect of the devolution white paper on the borders and status of ceremonial counties. The ministerial answer said government would work with councils on any implications for ceremonial counties. 11th of February 2025, launched the Save Rutland petition, specifically seeking protection for Rutland's ceremonial county status, Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff. 2nd of April 2025, met local government minister Jim McMahon specifically to explain Rutland's unique legal position. The meeting resulted in the minister agreeing to commission officials to provide specific advice so that a possible legislative vehicle could be identified. She followed the meeting up in writing. 2nd of April 2025, formal presentation of the Save Rutland petition. 20th of November 25, she tabled a new clause 47, NC 47, to the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill. It proposed amending Schedule 1 of the Lieutenancy Act 1997 to insert Rutland expressly. This amendment was not accepted. At the same time, she wrote to the Minister of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, asking government either to support her clause at report stage and beyond, or introduce its own clause to achieve the same protection. We're still waiting. 31st of March 2026, submitted her own formal response to the government's LGR consultation. Following the government's July 2026 decision, she has continued publicly campaigning against the outcome and has launched a further LGR petition opposing the structures chosen for the communities she represents. Our MP has already done what this amendment asks her to do. What has not happened is Rutland County Council itself formally resolving to petition, not write, not a nice little letter, petition, demand, fight for our county to the Secretary of State. The missing voice here is not that of our Member of Parliament, it is the formal voice of this council. None of our council. None of our council resolutions, as said in my proposal, explicitly state this council's position regarding our ceremonial status, nor indeed our county status. I won't read out all the resolutions that have gone through the Cabinet report, but I've got them here. Our recommendation asks that the leader of Rutland County Council, following a resolution of Rutland County Council, to petition the Secretary of State. The proposed amendment removes that responsibility from the leader and transfers it onto our MP who's already doing precisely this. This is our responsibility. If this council believes that Rutland's ceremonial county status is Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff and the legal recognition of the county of Rutland must be protected, then surely this council should be prepared to say so formally to government in its own name. I do not believe it is appropriate for this council to outsource its responsibility to our Member of Parliament. Yeah. Our MP has already spoken. Our residents have already spoken. What is missing is the formal voice of Rutland County Council. I therefore cannot support this amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Stephenson, Councillor Dinsmore.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to begin briefly with the amendments to Resolution 2, or the second part of our recommendation, which I thought were absolutely fantastic. That was this chamber coming together and essentially saying, we like the idea, we haven't gone far enough, what about these extra points? And that's us coming together to get the leader of this council, as the representative voice of this council, writing to the Secretary of State to say what we in this country believe, representing those that have elected us here. So I was delighted in the second recommendation. I am, however, disappointed with the amendment to the first, because for some reason there's this change of strategy. We're not going to ask the leader of the council this time. We want our MP to continue doing what she's already doing. Well, what's the point of that? Our MP doesn't need us to ask her to keep doing what she's doing. She needs us to enter the fight with her through the leader of our council. Councillor Water has mentioned the assurances that she's received from national government. I'm more sceptical. This government assured us they wouldn't raise tax on working people. They assured us they'd smash the gangs. They assured us 6,500 more teachers with VAT increases on fees, down 1,900. They assured us stability in government. Broken, broken, broken. The assurances mean nothing. And Councillor Brown and Councillor Johnson know that. That's why they're amending the motion as to who says it, but they don't disagree that somebody needs to say it, because the assurances mean nothing. This Labour government will only respond to strength. And if we do not stand now, as a united voice, behind our leader of the council, they will not listen. Our MP has done valiant work for the last 18 months on this issue. And unfortunately, it hasn't yet achieved what we wanted to achieve. Let this be the moment that the scales tip in our favour, because they see it's not just Alicia on her own, it's every member of this chamber, representing every member of Rutland, united behind our leader. That is why, in my strong opinion, this must come from the leader of the council and not from our MP. And that's why I'll be voting against the amendment.
Councillor Dinsmore. Any other members wish to speak? Councillor McGraw.
Chair, if I may, I'd like to ask a question to clarify something which I don't understand, which I believe Councillor Stephen introduced.
Councillor Stephenson.
This is the suggestion that a petition from the council would somehow have more legal force than a letter requesting the government to do something. And I'm not an expert on either local government or national government law. I'd like to be told by someone who knows whether that is true, that a petition somehow has a legal force, which a letter would not.
Can you answer that, Councillor Stephenson?
I will do my best. Thank you, Councillor McGraw. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer. What I am is a representative of Uppingham, and I sit on this council. What is important is to note what our public position has been as a council since the announcement. Despite the fact that we put in a proposal as a council for a 3-unitary model, we've been ignored, but the press release said that we, and that is our position as a council, respect the government's decision. That's what they've got on paper, and as I was alluding to, there is a huge amount of work to get done. At the moment, as far as the ministers are concerned, it's our MP who is having the fight. What I'm asking for this evening, what Councillor Dinsmore is asking for this evening, and why we can't support the amendment, is that, do you know what, you're right, the government might not listen, although apparently it's on listening mode. But isn't this a wonderful opportunity to be unequivocal as a council, not as an MP, as only 15 of us here tonight, but as a council, united, cross-party, saying this is what is important for our county, for our ceremonial status. That is all that I'm asking. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm hoping the government will listen, not just to an MP, but will listen to us, representing the people of Rutland.
Other members wishing to speak to the amendments? Yes, Councillor Hurst.
What worries me the most is I like evidence, I like numbers. And I think 7,000 out of a population of 40,000 is not a majority. And we've heard all evening about how everybody in Rutland wants Now, I've spoken to lots of residents, it's not my belief, but they've spoken to me, they don't understand why we want this ceremonial process. They have no idea. They may be newcomers, they may not have a history of living here all their lives, but they...
Sorry, point of order, Chair.
Yes.
I believe that we're debating the amendment, not the substantive motion at the moment, and I think your speech, which is very interesting, but it doesn't seem to be addressing the amendment on whether it should be the leader or the MP. But I'm very happy to be corrected, and apologies genuinely for interrupting Councillor Ellison.
Councillor Ellison, are you speaking to the amendment?
I am.
There's no, not possible. If you either do or you don't. Okay. Okay. Any other members wish to speak to the amendment? Yes, Councillor Henson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Having led this council through a certain amount of time and sat in front of ministers, asking them to support us, especially with low funding and bits and pieces like that, I believe that actually it's sad we've got to this point in time to come together as a group. I think we should have done this a long time ago. But I think that our MP and the leader should be approaching this in a very serious manner, and I think we all need to be behind that. So I don't disagree with the amendment, but I'm not sure I'll support it. I just feel that we're actually going off slightly cockeyed, and we really want to be joined at the hip, 100%, everybody in this room. Thank you.
Any other members wish to speak to the amendment? In that case, Councillor Stephenson, have you got any more something to do?
Oh, sorry, I don't think I'm summing up an amendment that isn't mine.
I think you do. According to my,
No, because...
there's no right to reply for the proposer of the amendment. The mover of the original motion does have the right to reply according to my sheet.
I think I've explained my position, which is not to support the amendment, and I think it is now a case of going to the vote, Chair, but obviously I am in your hands because you do know more about this than me on procedural things. Thank you.
Okay, well I think that counts as your summing up, Councillor Stephenson. So now we move to the vote on the amendment. So,
could we have it recorded, please?
in that case, we need a vote on that. Members wishing to have a recorded vote. Without winning step. Yeah, so, right.
14, Chair.
Okay, so the vote will be recorded. So the amendment on item 1 is that the Leader of the Council requests a Member of Parliament to make every effort to use all available parliamentary processes to ensure that the necessary legislative provisions are made to preserve Rutland's ceremonial county status, the offices of the Lord Lieutenant of Rutland and High Sheriff of Rutland, and the continued legal recognition of the use of the name County of Rutland. In addition, we urge the Member of Parliament to request a clear timetable for these measures to be published and provide to herself and the Rutland County Council at the earliest opportunity. All those members in favour of the amendment? Okay, all those members against the amendment? Any abstentions? Okay, in that case, Stoffel, can you read out the result, please?
Thank you, Chair. We have votes for from Councillors Lambert, Waller, Helmsley, Ellison, Brown, Johnson, and, sorry, beg your pardon, that was it. That's 6. Against, Councillors Stephenson, Dinsmore, Clifton, Kane, Farina, Heckles, McRobb, Brown, and Wilby. That's 9, Chair.
Okay, so the amendment therefore falls, and we return to the substantive motion. Still, we need to distinguish between the two people with the second name Brown on that, please. Okay, so members can now return to the substantive motion. So open to debate. Councillor Clifford.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman. I would start by saying, actually, often these types of meetings, it's actually, particularly myself, to talk about historical details. So it's actually quite interesting to have an occasion when I'm joined by other enthusiasts. Clearly, I am delighted with the level of support we have seen for Rutland here this evening. And I think actually, as I said, this is one of those occasions when so many of the substantial points, which perhaps would have been said, would have only been said. And I'd like to thank those who have given their deputation, particularly Mr. Miles, Williams, Noble, who has cleared the way for me to talk my speech. You'll all be pleased to hear. I'm pleased with the motion. The first part of the motion has not been amended. I think that it is clear enough and only reasonable. And obviously, we are aware, I'm aware, that various statements by officials, by ministers, have been made pertaining to our ceremonial status. And obviously, everybody welcomes that. There's no reason why anybody wouldn't. And the whole point of this motion is obviously to build on that. So the government knows unambiguously that it's not just a letter from the leader, it is something else from the County of Rutland, the County Council of the County of Rutland. And also, part of my apprehension, I think it's been mentioned, is that it lies in our history, the very specific way that Rutland is actually legally a county. Obviously, I don't mistake the history, everyone knows the story. But I think, as I say, it's important that this is dealt with in a way that the government understands that it is what the council wants. And I think that if you have a full vote of every member of council who says we all actually do support this ceremonial retention by county, it would be very hard for the government to just completely ignore you, we hope. And I think one of those concerns, and this has been raised, that is what's possible. We've had conservative proposals at Westminster to name the lieutenants to that 1997, you mentioned. It doesn't mention Rutland. We know why, because of Mr. Miles Williams Noble. And we have heard that Alison Kearns MP and Baroness Berry of Catmos, could you have a better title in your peerage? Have actually asked specifically that Rutland is listed as a county in the 1997 Act, because of course we were not listed as a county in the Local Government Act 1972, and we missed the 1997 Act by fortnight. And I know that everyone was supporting this. I also think that one of the reasons we might consider what is going on is because at the moment there are 23 ceremonial counties and Humble Park are going to be affected. And that is 23 million people. Rutland is, on that measure, 42,000, 23 million people. So the other 22 ceremonial counties being affected are already in legislation. Rutland isn't. The only other county in the same situation as Rutland is Herefordshire, because they were reconstituted the county in 1998 on the same basis, the unitarisation. And again, to be fair, the government's not actually said that they are against this. So the problem is, I think, and the reason it's caused so much distress for so many people is because the government does talk about using secondary legislation to put Rutland right, if you like. But the problem is that what you can do on the one hand, as people have said, with the local government public involvement in Health Act 2007, you can't seemingly just transfer to Rutland. Now, I know this, but I looked at what was said in the House of Lords. Baroness Berry has said, well, the problem is the government's proposing under Section 10 to abolish Rutland County Council. but under section 15 to reconstitute Rutland as a ceremonial county. The problem is do you then have a gap, and do you actually then have an issue? And so, I think the problem is that there will be some officials in the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government who, I have to say, is a very Orwellian name. At the moment, there's a county in this called Leicestershire, and it says local government areas covered. It says Leicestershire, Leicester. My worry is that somebody who knows nothing of Rutland, who's never been here, a faraway county of which they know little perhaps, will simply say, well, Leicester, we could have only say the county of Leicester is Leicester, and Leicestershire and Rutland.
30 seconds, Councillor.
Thank you. So obviously I support the motion. On the second point, well, I haven't been a fan of local government reorganisation. I think it's not going to last. I think it's going to fall apart. I think in 20 or 30 years' time, there will be a U-turn. 30 years ago, Oakham was buzzing with the first elections to Rutland County Council, having had a reconstituted body. It would be no different in 30 years if Rutland would enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Other members wishing to speak to these items? Yes, Councillor Waller.
Thank you, Chairman. I will endeavour to speak up. This motion has been in two parts. We debated through debating the proposed amendment, part one, and I, and most of the people in this room, I think, would agree that we want to see the retention of the Lord Lieutenancy and High Sheriff of Rutland. The only issue has been what's the best way of achieving it. So I'd like to park that and focus on the second part. Frankly, the government's decision on local government reorganisation I found quite baffling. Why choose Leicester City's option when it didn't meet the government's own criteria and was the least well supported of all the options, as Councillor Stephenson has identified? The decision did not explain how the new county unitary council, that's a mouthful, incorporating Rutland would be financially sustainable. And an explanation of that wasn't in the Leicester City proposal on which the decision was based. Indeed, I wonder how achievable local government reorganisation is under the decision that's been made. Given that there are complexities in disaggregating contracts, for example, waste collection, in those districts where part of the district will be in the new county authority and part in the new city. And that leaves aside all the amalgamation of contracts, disaggregation and aggregation, double complexity. And therefore, I'm very pleased that the proposers of the original motion accepted what my colleagues put forward as an amendment, because I think we will be getting closer to enough, hopefully finding out the justification for what the government's done, and that will then leave our leader in a position to know the best way of negotiating with her colleagues within the Greater Leicestershire and also approaching ministers if necessary. So thank you once again. And please be in no doubt. I have said in this chamber many times, we were going for the least four worst options. We have ended up with the worst of all options.
Thank you, Councillor Waller. Councillor Cllr.
Chair, can I just clarify? Are we talking?
Is this a point of order, point of information, or point of personal explanation?
A point of personal explanation, I suppose. Are we talking to point one or point two? Are we debating point one?
We're debating both.
Both, okay.
On the substantive.
In that case, may I speak?
Yes.
Thank you. Point two then. You may recall in October 25, due to high public interest, a scrutiny task and finish group was formed to evaluate the three proposals on the table for local government reorganisation that were relevant to Rutland. The task and finish group brought together a series of questions to enable evaluation of these options fairly on an apples for apples basis
We've also ran a questionnaire around Rutland residents, so each of the proposals will be evaluated, taking residents' opinions into account. It was tasked with producing an objective, neutral report focused on what Rutland's resident had raised as being important to them. We evaluated the North City South proposal, Leicester County Council, and Leicester City, which included Leicester City expansion. And at this stage, the South West Stephen option had fallen away. To summarise this analysis, the weakest proposal we evaluated was the one the government has chosen to move forward with, the two-unitary council model with Leicester City expansion. This proposal had no financial planning in it. It contained figures, but there was lack of any explanation as to where these derived from. There was no evidence. The lack of any financial plan and any attempt to balance and make any figures meaningful also meant it had no integrity. I've been back to check the Leicester City proposal and my analysis remains the same. It confirmed there was no financial plan, and my questions regarding evidence and integrity remain. The security panel analysis focused on Rutland's residents' view of the proposals. Alongside this, and to give a balanced view to inform councillors at council meeting, another view considering the broader regional context was submitted by our esteemed council officers. The comment on sustainability perspective of the Leicester City proposal says the two-unitary model offers short-term simplicity and critical savings, but lacks a strong prevention strategy and transformation approach. Whilst it avoids fragmentation and maintains service continuity, it relies on instrumental efficiencies rather than systemic change, raises concerns about long-term sustainability under rising demand pressures. In a nutshell, the proposal is short-term and in the long term unsustainable. Following our debate on the 20th of November, a vote was taken of non-cabinet members, allowing an indication of support or not for the three options on the table for Rutland's future. Not one Rutland County Councillor voted for the Leicestershire and Leicester City proposal as being the right way forward for Rutland. Following this meeting, there was a special cabinet meeting. The three options on the table were considered for submission. The Leicestershire and Leicester City proposal were, quote, both criticised for potentially undermining Rutland's identity and influence. Note this is a quote from the minutes of the cabinet meeting. Not one cabinet member supported the Leicestershire and Leicester City proposals. In November 25, not one member of this council thought the right way forward for Rutland was the option the government has imposed upon us. Following our analysis, the evidence, or rather lack of it, the decision that has been made hasn't changed. There is no justification that's obvious for the government decision that has been made. My opinion hasn't changed. The Leicester and Leicester City proposals do not meet Rutland's proposals and requirements going forward. I strongly support part 2 of the motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. The other members, it's Councillor Rock.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to speak really only about the second part of the motion, because I think the first part, the disagreement over the amendment, which has fallen anyway, was really only a question of means. And I think there was complete agreement around the chamber about the ends. I think many people in the room, judging by the applause that some speeches by members are giving, many members of the public in this chamber would also agree with that end. There may be varying strength. I believe Councillor Ellenson was going to make a probabilistic analysis of a rather unverified poll, but I think that's by the by, because I think there is pretty much unity around the chamber that we should continue to seek the point of part 1 of the motion, and we now have an agreement on the means through the vote on the amendment. On the second part, it might surprise people that as the only member here tonight of the party that is in government, that has brought this to us as an inescapable reality in some form or other. But I wholeheartedly agree with the quest to get an adequate explanation of the reasons why the government has chosen the option that they have chosen, because locally there is not support for it. That means almost, although I'm speaking in favour of the motion myself, I don't think procedure would allow this, but it would shorten the meeting, Chair, if you were able to call on speeches only from members who disagree with it, because I think we'd reach a very speedy conclusion and get to the vote. Thank you.
To Councillor McGraw, any other members' motions? Councillor Farina, are you indicating? No? Okay, this Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Chairman. Like the vast majority of residents in our county, I don't want to be in this situation. I've made my views pretty clear before on LGR, and I fundamentally disagree with it. And I've said this before, I'm a relative newcomer to Rutland. I've only lived here for just over 7 years, and I'm told you have to be here for at least 50 years to be potentially counted as a Rutland. But I'm determined to get there eventually. Before being here, I lived in Rutland, in Birmingham, right in the city centre. I saw what it's like to have a huge faceless authority. Councillors there represented gigantic wards, and despite their best efforts, they often could not offer a personal level of service to their residents, or be visible across all the different communities their wards contained. The option government has decided to force on us in Rutland puts Rutland in a similar position. Decisions made for us, far away, most of our people have no stake in our communities. Local councillors left to serve huge wards all on their own. That takes away one of the best things about Rutland, which is how close and visible we are to our communities. It's impossible to walk down the street here without picking up casework or stopping for a chat with a resident, and that's brilliant. It's one of the best things about Rutland, one of the things that make Rutland, and why our role in it is so special. I had previously given my support as the best of a bad set of options to the North City South proposal. In the absence of to stop LGR altogether, that option at least made the clearest effort for more power to small areas, maintain local accountability, and encourage community engagement. And that option had the majority of support in the chamber. But that clearly hasn't happened. We've ended up with the option that nobody wanted, and now we're telling residents that they can be part of a geographically enormous authority, and that their closeness to the council and the councillors that they were used to is being taken away, or at best significantly reduced. Residents are understandably disappointed and frustrated by this decision from central government. And the job now falls to us as councillors to make the best of it if we cannot stop it. But how can we do that when we have no explanation? No explanation of how a decision was reached, no explanation of what benefits Rutland might gain if the proposal goes ahead, and no explanation of how as much of what makes Rutland special as possible can be maintained. I haven't seen a single thing saying why this is good for Rutland, or why it's better than simply being left alone. So it's imperative that the government explains why this change is being made, what data and analysis they use to reach their decision, and how this option supports their own stated aims for local government organisation. And finally, how they intend to preserve as much of what makes Rutland special as they can. If they cannot do that convincingly, then they have clearly made a mistake and they should review the decision and think again. I support this motion and we can all put together to get the best possible outcome for Rutland. Thank you.
Any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Dinsmore.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to begin by thanking the members of the public that have come out today. I've not seen in my time as a councillor, or perhaps more importantly heard of, because I haven't been a councillor for that long, such a strength of feeling to the extent that we've had to enforce fire regulations. But why are there so many members of the public here? Why is there so much passion in this room? It's because identity matters. I disagree with Councillor Lambert. I only moved to the county 2 years ago. But I am a Rutlander. My son is a Rutlander. We will always be Rutlanders, regardless of what borders are drawn on a map or what somebody in Whitehall says. I will never say that I'm from Leicestershire. Now, it's the moment for this council to unite. This is not a party political matter. We all agree we want the ceremonial status, and we should be unanimous in that. Councillor Stephenson spelled out all the great work that our MP has done. That is one voice, currently in opposition, easy to ignore, much harder to ignore. A unanimous, united council, leading a united county, who say we will not go quietly into the night. We will say that we want our county status. We've tried playing ball. We've tried the strategy of trying to negotiate by going along with it. It simply hasn't worked. We've heard tonight again and again, we've got the worst possible option. So what is the alternative option? It is to say, we're not taking it, we'll petition the Secretary of State, we'll push on the second amended resolution, and in my view, this fight is not yet over.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I hope that these two motions will have an impact on the Secretary of State, will have an impact on Whitehall, who hopefully somebody will be irritated and say they're not going away, we're going to have to deal with this, can somebody please propose an amendment?
Exactly.
So that's why I'm supporting both of these amendments, and I thank Councillor Johnson and Brown for their further amendments to number 2. And let it be reported, I hope, that this council was unanimous, that we want our county status, we want our officers of Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff, and that the name County of Rutland continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dinsmore. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I spend quite a lot of my time currently with Rutland businesses, and there's a real passion amongst them about Rutland. They don't want to lose the name, they don't want to be seen moving at East Leicestershire Water or anything like that. So I think that the passion in here is very clear, the drive that we all have is very clear. Rutland is a special place. It is the beating heart of the UK. If you want to look at the map very carefully, you'll see that. It is something that I have portrayed across lots of people I talk to. And I think that we're in agreement with what we need to do, and I think we need to work together, including our MP. I think she needs to do her bit as well. I know she's done some of it, but there's more to be done. And we will not give up until we have got the right thing sorted with national government. I do believe that the Lord Privy Seal can sort this quite simply. It's information I was given a very long time ago, but hopefully we don't have to resort to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Well, here we are again. We have called this meeting, Special Council, to raise a number of issues our fellow colleagues feel so passionately about. I'm sure at least some of us here may be in agreement that this is not the future for Rutland as a thriving independent county that we were hoping for. The increased expansion of the Leicester City boundaries, the one of many cities seeing its landfall increase, we are also seeing the integration of our wonderful, unique and small counties being absorbed into what the government is proposing as these brand new super counties. So where does this leave our Rutland? Well, Rutland as a county, let's not forget, is rich in heritage and history. We have a booming local economy. We boast many, many independent businesses. Rutland Water is in all its beauty and has helped put Rutland on the map. And of course, Rutland is a celebrated ceremonial county. Its history, of which dates back to more than 600 to 1,000 years. And also, independence from Leicestershire was won on April 1st, 1997. Us Rutland County Councillors were elected to not only represent, protect and conserve the heritage of Rutland, the county we serve. Now I need to leave without any reasonable doubt that we have done our utmost to ensure that Rutland's ceremonial status is protected. With the Council's endorsement and a petition to the Secretary of State to ensure that Rutland's ceremonial status is protected from the dissolvement of Rutland County Council, with plans along with the scheduled timetable put in place by government to further protect the offices of the Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff. With so much uncertainty currently being communicated from government, the residents of Rutland deserve these reassurances. It is also equally important that the name, the County of Rutland, is respected, honoured and recognised as a formal legal term. Secondly tonight, Many councils around the country have raised legitimate concerns and issues regarding how government have reached their decisions of what authority goes where. We've reviewed the petitions which have been sent to the government laying out these concerns. Here tonight, we push for a review into how ultimately the decision on the 27th July the 16th of 2026 was made and why this is somehow controversially the best decision for our county. Finally, tonight's special council is not just about resistance and pushback, a government decision, but most importantly clarity. Us county councillors are in the role to provide sense and clarity to residents, especially when decisions are being undertaken without their consent. So it would be a pleasure and an honour to support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hayes.
The 16th of July was an incredibly sad day for our beloved Rutland. It was the day that the Labour government decided that Rutland would be absorbed into a much larger Leicestershire donut authority. A decision which, in my view, ignores the strength of feeling in Rutland and raises serious questions about our services, our accountability, our identity and our future. If independence was no longer an option, residents indicated they would rather explore alternatives involving Stafford and South Kesteven, our closest and most like-minded neighbours. I was very disappointed to hear the ex-leader's suggestion North City South was the least worst option, because in choosing it, she effectively welcomed joining with Leicestershire. Rutland deserved better than the least worst option. I did not even support the Leicester City bid, the Leicester County bid, or the North City South. Leicester City was always likely to expand, as they are almost bankrupt and ignoring council tax. I believe Rutland deserved a positive vision for its future. We have been here before. Between 1974 and 97, Rutland was part of Leicestershire. It didn't work for us. Generations of Rutlanders fought to regain our independence, and we should not forget that history. I believe Rutland should have fought to remain independent for as long as possible, or explored a genuine partnership with our nearest neighbours. We were told we were not forcing anyone by government. It certainly feels like Rutland has been given little choice, but we should have worked for a solution that our residents want. And there are serious questions about what that means for our services, because Rutland has demonstrated that small can be successful. Our adult social care service is one of the strongest in the country. Our finance team has recently won national recognition. Our schools have continued to perform exceptionally well. These achievements did not happen by accident. They are the result of local leadership, local knowledge, and people who care deeply about this community. So I ask a simple question. What exactly does Rutland gain from this? We are told there will be savings, but Rutland is already a unitary, and the savings come from abolishing district councils. What we do have is costs. The government is providing around £1 million to establish the new authority, while upfront costs are projected to be around £30 million, including substantial redundancy costs. So where is the financial benefit to Rutland? And perhaps more importantly, what happens to local accountability? One of Rutland's greatest strengths is that our council is close to its residents. Councillors are accessible. Officers know our communities. Decisions are made locally by people who understand Rutland. That is what local government should be about. Because Rutland is not simply a line on a map. It's a community. It's an identity, and it matters. Leicestershire County Council has expressed serious concerns about the government's decision. Indeed, a Leicestershire councillor has pointed out to me that the proposed city expansion would engulf many of the key business-rated areas within this ward. This questions the actual financial viability of the donut. Legal challenges have now been pursued for several councils. We will have to wait and see where those challenges lead. But what we really need here is fairer funding. There is another issue more importantly likely that we need to address: Rutland's identity. Rutland has a history stretching back centuries. It was recorded as Rutland in the Domesday Book and recognised as an independent county in 1159. The government has given assurances that Rutland's ceremonial status, privileges and history and identity will be protected. Our problem is Rutland is omitted from the Lieutenancy Act 1997. I sincerely hope those assurances are honoured. Assurances are not guarantees. Governments change. If the government genuinely intends to protect Rutland's identity, then let us put that protection beyond doubt. Let us secure that legislation before our government make a U-turn. Because Rutland really is worth protecting. The Rutland name has value. Businesses in my ward trade on the name of Rutland. Our identity has value. I'm going to have to skip a little bit, I do apologise. I hope that we protect the identity and everything that makes our county so special. Because small does not mean insignificant. Rutland may be multi-million.
Thank you, Councillor Nichols.
Did I just finish my sentence?
You can finish your sentence.
Thank you so much. Rutland may be multi-million cargo. There is an awful lot to fight for, and that is why I will be supporting this motion, because I believe Rutland is worth fighting for.
Any other members wish to speak? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't spoken on the main motions.
No, you haven't. So we'll write it down.
Thank you. Good. You can be organised. Thank you. I just want to make sure that it's very clear to everybody that I think everybody in this chamber wants to retain Rutland's ceremonial status without exception. And it is a pity that it has been posited that there may be some dissent, because there isn't, I don't believe. I think we are all in favour of keeping Rutland's ceremonial status, keeping the High Sheriff, and keeping the law going. Rutland does have an identity. I've lived here for 26 years this year, and I think it's a brilliant place to live. I've loved it ever since we've been here. However, we are small, and therefore we can get picked on. And you can view it that we have been picked on. In terms of efforts to change the government's mind, I would support anything that I believe is effective. I think that's the important thing. It's effective. It needs to be effective, not that it's just for show. I think we need to make sure that we challenge the government on ceremonial status and ensure that we do get the right assurances and we do get something that is enshrined in the law. And I do think that the leader of the council plays a part in that, but our member of parliament continues, I hope, to play a part in that, because it is in her domain that parliamentary action will take place. In terms of number 2, then the 3 paragraphs that make up item 2 of the motion were proposed by us across here, the administration. And I'm absolutely in favour of those amendments as were accepted by the opposition leader over there, which I thank you for. Because we haven't received an explanation. We believe that what we've been directed to is the wrong solution for Rutland, and is the wrong solution, in fact, for Leicestershire and Leicester City. And we do want to make sure we have detailed explanations. All of that, I think, is absolutely logical. However, we still need to turn our minds, if we wish to effective opposition to the legislation and how we manage to get a solution which fits Rutland's requirements. And whereas I'm in support of item 2, I'm not sure if that goes far enough to achieve the objectives. I think it's a step along the way. So I do not think that this effort is finished here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Any other members wish to speak? Sorry, not the amendment, the substantive. In that case, we will take the 2 elements of the motion separately. I'm sorry, I didn't Summer, Councillor Stephenson. How rude.
Yes, I can assure you, Chair, because I am very mindful of the temperature, so I will be speaking on size. First of all, we have gone into the discussion about debate around local government reorganisation in the principle, moving slightly away from the recommendations. You know, members, the public know that I have always been anti local government reorganisation because it is ill thought. I have said privately and publicly that there should be a case for Rutland. I have stood in this council chamber when we have had incredible annual reports, and I have asked, when are we going to start fighting for Rutland? I understood the logic of working with government appeasing them. Can I be absolutely clear? It hasn't. An invitation was sent, which we, as a council, accepted. An invitation isn't a three-line whip. So let's just remember that, please. Yes, this is now being forced on us, but frankly, we walked into the vampire's house.
Yes.
I will carry on to my summing up on this. First of all, I absolutely sympathise with Councillor Ellison. Yeah, I've heard from residents as well. Not everybody's on the same page. The only thing I am mindful of, I have not yet seen a petition where people have signed saying, please take away our ceremonial status, please take away our county status. So I would be very, very upset if the weight for agnostic people was in more weight than those who have taken time to sign a petition, have taken time to stand up and be counted. Third point, assurances. And I sympathise with Councillor Waller. It is comfortable and it is comforting to think that assurances will be stood by. Councillor Dinsmore has given examples where the government's assurances have gone into dust. I'm going to give an example a little bit closer to home, and I don't mean to be uncomfortable about this, but if a resident had asked us in March, April of this year, are we going to see our Rutland Sea Dragon displayed in public in the county museum? I think, reasonably, members, we would have said yes. If the resident then said, well, can I have your assurance, please? I believe that we would have said, oh, look at our capital investment programme. We've got this money here, and we are going to invest it in this.
Point of information, Councillor Johnson.
This part of Councillor Stephenson's speech is not at the motion. It is away from the motion. It's not
I'm just giving an example of how minds can be changed.
Yeah, what minds change, because let me finish, Councillor Johnson. I think you'll be reassured that I'm not moving this into something else. I'm giving this an insurance. Cabinet had to take a very difficult decision, bear with me, Councillor Johnson, to change that capital investment because of a myriad of things clearly explained in the Cabinet report, not least the complexities, the risks that arose. What I am saying, that there is every chance, the amount of work that has been mentioned, that should things end up on a too difficult pile, as I have said, that assurance is not legally binding, it has plenty of wriggle room. So that's my bit on assurances. Finally, members, the risk. Supporting both recommendation and recommendation 1 and recommendation 2. Councillor Dinsmore and I did not ask for judicial review because that would have cost money, and we know other councils are doing it. What we have asked for is for this council to be on record as fighting for our county status, and I make no apology for my emotion because I look around this room and I see people who fought for that in the 60s, who fought for it in the 70s. They're no longer with us, but they knew how important it was for our future. So I make no apology for how emotional I sound about this. Please, members, support both our recommendations. Let us now fight for our county. Multum in parvo, members.
Stephenson, so we'll take the elements of the motion separately. Yes.
Recorded vote, please, Chair.
Right. Well, we've got one member agreeing with you there.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Would anybody else like a recorded vote?
Right. Now we'll have a recorded vote. So the first element of the motion is that Council resolve to that the leader of the Council Petitions Secretary of State to ensure that the necessary legislative provisions are made to preserve Rutland's ceremonial status, the offices of the Lord Lieutenant of Rutland and the High Sheriff of Rutland, and the continued legal recognition and the use of the name County of Rutland, and request that a clear timetable for these measures is provided to Rutland County Council. Those members in favour, raise your hand. Okay, those against, and any abstentions?
Shame.
Members of the public do not take part in this debate. Please remain silent. Right, can we read out the result, please, Mrs. Stephenson?
Thank you, Chair. We've received votes for from A. Brown, Stephenson, Dinsmore, Clifton, Kane, Farina, Heckles, McRobb, Lambert, Waller, Helmsley, Key Brown, Johnson and Wilby. No votes against and one abstention from Councillor Ellison.
Okay, thank you, Sturple. And the second element is altered. I'm not going to read it out because it's quite long. So if members are happy to vote on that as amended, those in favour, please raise your hands. Okay, thank you. Circle.
Thank you, Chair. That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillors. We seem to have been playing a bit of bingo tonight. I don't know if I win, because my family's been in Cali for 350 years, so it's quite a long time. Thank you, everybody. The date of the next meeting is the Thursday, the 24th of September. We have 3 members who are currently unwell. Councillors Harvey, West and Carr. I'm sure members will join with me in wishing them a speedy recovery. Councillor Rob.
I believe this is a point of information, Chair. Does that make you a Rutlander?
Not quite, I would have thought. Maybe another couple of 100 years. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business for this meeting. Thank you, members and members of the public, for your attendance this evening. This meeting is closed at 8:36.